Welcome back to the 3 Hour News Show, and this is See the Stories, our signature segment and also our favorite segment of the 3 Hour News Show. So Indonesia has so many young talents and they are so inspirational. But can you pick one? Do you have your favorite inspirational young talents of Indonesia?
Yeah, I think
Guys,
so
or is it hard
because they're so different.
yes, different. It's so different, and I think there are a lot of youngsters, young people in Indonesia has been doing well things in international on international audience and events.
I feel like everything started earlier right now. Starts early, like politicians. They got younger and younger. People speaking at an international event, they got younger and younger. Entrepreneur, they're very young now. So many young people are,
You know what
making
changed?
records.
Social media.
Social media, right? Like you can expose anything.
Yes.
And then maybe at a time you did the same, but without
We
any
probably
social
did
media.
something great, but it was not very much
Well
exposed.
published,
Yeah.
exposed, because they have the power to do so.
Right. So, well, speaking of inspiring young Indonesians, do you know that recently a young Indonesian became one of the 100 youth representatives picked to attend a panel discussion at a UN headquarters? So, let's check it out first.
My name is Fathia Fairuza. I come from Indonesia. I personally relate a lot with the panelists today, especially because of me coming from a developing countries to study abroad here in New York with a lot of opportunities. I am a founder.
On October 24th, during United Nations Day, Fathia Fairuza, a student from Indonesia and master candidate at Columbia University, had the opportunity to visit United Nations headquarters in New York. She attended a panel discussion on higher education and multilateralism to discuss how Indonesian students can acquire higher education.
Fathia comes from Sidoarjo. This is an area in East Java province, which is a rural area in Indonesia. However, with her patience, she was able to boost her self-confidence and build herself up to get to where she wanted to be. Her experience has led her to establish Shape Your Life project, a project that aims to help marginalized high school students in Indonesia to reach their dream of studying abroad and also motivate them to reach for the best education.
I personally relate a lot with the panelists today, especially because
All right, so we're ready and connected already with Fathia Fairuza herself to discuss more about her experience in attending a panel discussion at UN headquarters on the UN Day and also about her concern about education. Hi Fathia, very good morning.
Good morning from New York.
Wow, you're still in New York, huh?
And it's 6 a.m., so thank you for waking up so early for joining this interview.
I hope you're an early
Thank you for
riser.
the opportunity.
Yeah, so Fathia, you were selected as one of the 100 youths to attend panel discussion at the UN headquarters on the UN Day. Please tell us a bit about the event and how did you get selected?
Yeah. Okay. So actually, there are a lot of conferences happening during the UN Day at the UN headquarters. One of them is the panel discussions, especially on the topic of multilateralism and higher educations. So I know about the events from my professor at Columbia University, who is one of the panelists in that panel discussions. So he gave us the forms to fill in. So we have to make an essay about our concerns in educations and then how we would like to participate or what questions we would like to ask the United Nations about youth and education. So I fill up those forms and thankfully I received an email that I am selected as one of the 100 youths going to participate in that panel discussions at the UN headquarters in New York.
So what were the most memorable moments for you during the event? Because it must be one very memorable thing to be, not just touring the UN headquarters, but actually being there to participate in conferences.
Yes, I think one of the most memorable thing is the fact that I had the opportunity to ask questions directly to the UN officers, because the one who was in the panel discussion was the Under Secretary General. So it is a very important person to talk to and to um, express my concerns. And then the fact that they answered that they are now just created the UN Youth Office. So hopefully in the future there will be more opportunities for more youths in Indonesia to express their concerns at the UN.
Right, interesting. So Fathia, I believe you've been through some selection until you got the change for speaking at the UN forum that we've been witnessing through some social media. So can you tell us more? How was the selection actually?
Yes, the selection was the essay. I think beside the essay is more like profiling, which students are actually going to make it happen to come to the United Nations headquarters itself. So other than my essay and my profile, I think I'm quite privileged. I could say this. Quite privileged that the fact I'm studying my master's degree in New York. So it's quite possible for me to go to the headquarters because I live in the same city. So that's why I said that I am very privileged and I want more opportunities like this for more youths in Indonesia.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting that you mentioned that you've got the privilege to see the world not only in Indonesia, especially a rural area where you come from, for example, in Sidoarjo, right? And you mentioned that you
Yes,
have a
Sidoarjo
concern.
Pride.
Yeah, you have a concern about Indonesian education, especially for the young Indonesians. So, what exactly is your concern and your hopes and goals?
Yeah. So what I've encountered is the fact that there are still many youths in Indonesia that that don't have the courage to dream big in the context of education. People from my community, they are so afraid to have a dream to pursue higher education. And I think it's quite crazy because they're not supposed to dream it because it's their rights. Education should be attainable and accessible for everyone. And so it's quite sad for me to acknowledge that, oh, people in my community still don't have the belief that they have the rights to education, especially to higher educations. And especially I'm talking about going abroad. They are there are many youths who thinks that they are coming from a small city, they are coming from an underprivileged background, and so they don't have the courage to dream big, to study abroad even. But right now, because of that concerns, I'm creating my platform, Shape Your Life Indonesia, to help underprivileged Indonesian youths. So we mentor them, we give them scholarship to take IELTS tests in order for them to be able to apply for opportunities to study abroad. Because if there are no encouragement, I don't know how to change Indonesian youths in the future.
Well, it's certainly really interesting because a lot of people still view education as something so far and, as you mentioned before, unattainable. But I love the fact that you mentioned that it is a right for somebody to, to attain education as high as they would want to. And as you've already mentioned the Shape Your Life project in Indonesia, what challenges have you faced in trying to convince the people in your community and the people who are, who are reaching out, who have been in contact with, Shape Your Life Indonesia, to see bigger, dream bigger?
Yeah. So for 2 years, I think I've realized that the root causes, it goes way far before that. So one of the challenging moment is the fact that there are many of the parents of the students also have the same mindset because probably they don't live in the same era as we do, and that the fact that education, especially higher education or studying abroad, was very inaccessible back then. So it was also the mindset that the parents had. So we also had to convince the parents that it is okay and your child has the potential to study or pursue higher education abroad, and especially with our mentorship, this kid could succeed. And so because of that, because we have to convince the parents, we also conduct webinars, especially targeted to parents, so that they would have the new perspectives about higher education or studying abroad for giving the child global opportunities.
Right. So one of the keywords that I got so far from discussion is writing an essay. Okay. Okay.
You love essays,
Yes.
Akir.
No, I think we need the like to persuade others people through our idea by writing some, let's say, an academic writing for that. So I'm still curious for it. So could you please tell more about what the topic of your essay until you got chosen for this activity in UN? And next, my question is, could you please elaborate also your educational background? I mean, you have your Shape Your Life project because you think underprivileged students should get their right for the higher education. Maybe you can share by your own experience. Maybe you can share like your educational background previously that you think you are maybe underprivileged. I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten us and elaborate for this.
Yeah. So because of the topic of education and the rights to education, my essay was my story. Actually, it came from my very own story. Um, so back in 2016, I was an exchange student in Madrid, Spain. However, I have I experienced an unfortunate event where the school discriminates me, as the school wanted to expel me from wearing my hijab. And so from that moment, it kind of like slaps me in the face that, oh, you need to do something about this. You need to defend your rights, because it's ridiculous that you cannot access education only because a religious background. And so that's one of the reasons why I've been discriminated against education only because of the way I dress. And the second reason was the fact that I experienced struggles in applying to universities abroad when I was a high school student, because there was no alumni coming from my school who has ever studied abroad before. So it was kind of a struggle for me to find a mentor, to figure out how to fill out the applications even, and to garner support coming from the teachers. It was very difficult for me back then. So I just wanted to raise my voice and give a platform to empower basically every student who also have the dream like me, so that they know that they have supports for that.
Wow, I mean, thank you for premiering
Yeah.
that and making the platform so that a lot of more youngsters can have the opportunity. But from your perspective, you mentioned that, kids or young people need to have higher education dreams outside the country, especially you have already experienced that yourself. So what is that immersive journey that you had that you feel like people need to get out of the country and get something out there? Because there's a lot of, knowledge, there's a lot of experiences. What is it that you experience?
I think about my educational background. In high school, I get the chance to go exchange to Madrid, Spain for 1 year. And then my undergraduate was 4 years in Japan at Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University. And now I'm in Colombia, in New York. So from those experiences, there are some things that I think I wouldn't get if I'm in Indonesia. Is one, obviously, the international exposure, or I think the multicultural understanding. That is the first thing that I think very important, because I think in the 21st world century, jobs are requiring us to work together with people coming from different backgrounds. So I think those skills of multicultural understanding are very important to have by youths nowadays. And then secondly is critical thinking. I think the education system in Indonesia are lacking to push the students to think critically upon something. Because, for example, in the UK, children in the sixth grade are required to write an essay about Black Lives Matter. Imagine that's children in their sixth grade. Imagine what a university student could do if they have the critical thinkings started to be practiced during their very early age. So those are the two things that I think very important to have by the youths, and we can develop that very progressively here in abroad. But I mean, even though we study abroad, we must contribute back to our country. That's why I made the Shape Your Life project, so that all I learned, I contribute back to my community.
That's great.
Very interesting. So now that you are already in Colombia, and what do you think you want to take away from this particular study? What's next for you when you finish in New York? Do you want to, gather more experience international? I mean, now the beauty of social media and technology is that you can monitor and be active on Shape Your Life Project Indonesia from anywhere in the world.
That's right. So the plan is to fill in the seat of Indonesia at the United Nations. So hopefully I will be the Indonesian representative in the United Nations, especially in the office for the youth, because I love to work with youths. And then other than that, for the Shape Your Life project itself, because I am studying something very specific, I wanted to become a specialist. Hopefully, in the future, we can be a consultant for the Ministry of Education or any educational institutions to create a guidelines, a human rights-based approach to education. Because I think nowadays, even though all educational programs have been created by the Ministry of Education, they're all great. However, there lacks attention to the human rights-based approach to educational programs. So hopefully with what I learned here at Columbia, I could put that output for Indonesia.
That's great, Fathia, and
Dream
we
big.
wish you luck for that.
Yes.
And thank you so much for sharing your stories and also your insights about how education in Indonesia needs to be improved, hopefully for the benefits as well, of course, for our young generation. Thank you and take care, and good luck for your pursuit over there in the United States.
Thank you, Fathia.
Thank you, Fathia.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck. One of my hopes is that good education can be achieved affordably.
Affordable.
In
Affordably,
Indonesia.
yes.
So that's-
But I feel like here in Jakarta, at least, we have different options, right? We have different options, and I feel like we hope that it's going to be distributed evenly, these options throughout Indonesia, not just in the big cities.
I agree.
Yes.
Of course, with the help of technology. We are going to have a break right now, but don't go anywhere because we still have a lot of interesting stories for you after the break. Stay tuned.